Congratulations on taking the first step toward increasing your charisma by watching this video. By the end of this, you won't just have 7 tips, you'll have a whole new approach to life that naturally draws people to you. And no, I'm not talking about surface level tricks like memorizing people's names or lightly touching someone's arm. I'm talking about what actually works. I know this because I've been on both sides. When I was younger, I was the definition of socially invisible, introverted, and always the quiet one in the back of the class. It wasn't that people disliked me, I just didn't exist to them. Especially when it came to girls, I was painfully shy, overthinking every single move. I spent years reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, trying to fake my way into being charismatic. Unfortunately, most advice from books are just tricks that sound good on paper, but don't really work in real life. And even the ones that do work are too complicated to remember. However, I realized one thing: charisma is a skill you develop through action, not a gift you're born with. So, I made it my mission to find out exactly how to develop that skill. And unlike most creators, I won't gatekeep anything. You will get the exact tricks I use myself to be charismatic. But first, let's get clear on what we're actually building. Charisma is the ability to make people feel comfortable, engaged, and genuinely interested in you without them even realizing why. It's not about how loud you are, it's about how you make others feel in your presence. 1. The eye color game. Think about the last time you talked to your crush or someone you really liked. What color were their eyes? Most guys have no idea because their eye contact is weak. They stare at the floor, scan the room, or look at the person's mouth because they are afraid of real connection. This is where most eye contact advice fails. It tells you to stare harder or count to 3, which just makes you look robotic and cringe. Instead, I want you to play a simple game, the eye color game. Your only goal in every conversation is to find out the exact color of the other person's eyes. This is incredibly powerful because it gives your brain a specific mission. Instead of overthinking how you look, you are forced to actually look at the person in front of you. This creates a calm, steady energy that makes people respect you instantly. And the best part? It can naturally lead to a genuine compliment. Once you actually notice their eyes, you can say, "You have a really unique eye color." This isn't a cringe pickup line, it's a real observation that makes the other person feel seen and makes you look like the most magnetic person in the room. 2. The vision lead. Does this sound familiar? Someone asks you, "What have you been up to?" And your default answer is, "Not much," or "Just working." This is where most people mess up, and you do too. Without realizing it, you are signaling that you have zero direction in your life. When you tell people you aren't doing anything, they subconsciously start to believe you aren't going anywhere. Most men drift through life day to day without a real mission, and people can feel that lazy energy instantly. Instead, use the vision lead. When someone asks what's new, talk about a goal you're actually excited about. It doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar business. It could be a new gym routine you're crushing, a book you finally finished, or a skill you're practicing. When you lead with your vision, it changes your entire presence. It shows people that you are a man of purpose, which earns you instant respect. And it helps you stay focused on your own mission because you are reminding yourself daily what actually matters. Stop being the background character who's just drifting through life with no destination. When you move with intention, you stop seeking validation and start radiating a calm, steady force. People aren't just drawn to success, they are drawn to the energy of a man who knows exactly where he's going. When they see that drive in your eyes, they won't just like you, they'll want to be part of your mission. 3. The story fueler. Most guys think being charismatic means being the most interesting person in the room. They spend the whole time waiting for their turn to speak, just so they can tell a better story. But if you're always trying to win the conversation, you are losing the connection. People love talking about themselves more than anything else. Instead of just nodding your head while someone speaks, I want you to start fueling the fire. We all know that one guy who just stands there while you tell a story. You're sharing something you're excited about, but it feels like you're talking to a brick wall because there are no questions and no energy coming back. It makes the conversation feel heavy and awkward. So here is what I want you to do. When someone is sharing a story, don't just wait for them to finish. Ask questions that help them paint the full picture. Even a simple, "Wait, what happened next?" works, but you want to take it even deeper, so ask about the why behind the story. Try questions like, "That sounds like a massive headache. What was the hardest part of dealing with that?" Or, "I'm curious, looking back now, is there anything you'd do differently?" When you provide the fuel for their story, you make them feel seen and important. This takes all the pressure off you to be the entertainer. You let them do the heavy lifting while you simply provide the energy that keeps the conversation alive. The best part? It doesn't feel like work to them. They'll actually enjoy the talk because they finally found someone who isn't just a nodding brick wall. You aren't just listening, you're helping them tell their best story. Now you know exactly what questions to ask when someone is telling a story, but you want to build truly magnetic connections, and this next point will make it easier than ever. 4. The eye contact buddy. I'm going to give you a secret way to build massive attraction in a group setting without saying a single word. Most guys miss this because they are too focused on the person talking instead of the person they actually want to connect with. Think about the last time you were in a group and everyone started laughing. Usually people look at the one telling the joke, or they just scan the room randomly because they feel a bit overwhelmed by the energy. But truly charismatic people use that peak emotional moment to anchor a connection. Next time the group laughs, don't just look away. Look directly at the person you're most interested in, whether it's a girl you like or a potential business partner. By sharing that look while everyone else is distracted, you build a private, magnetic secret between just the two of you. It signals that you are both on the same wavelength without saying anything. This creates more respect and attraction in 2 seconds than a 20-minute conversation ever could. You are showing that you are present in the moment and confident enough to share it specifically with them. Most eye contact advice tells you to stare at someone while you are talking, which usually feels forced, aggressive, and frankly, a bit weird. The eye contact buddy works because you're using a natural moment of joy to build a bond. You aren't forcing anything, you are simply being the person who is present enough to share the moment with someone else. It feels natural to them, but it makes you look incredibly confident and socially aware. It leads to them remembering you more than anyone else in the group. Even if you weren't the one telling the joke, you were the one they shared that magnetic, personal moment with. 5. Fire and ice. Imagine 2 guys in a high-pressure situation. One is loud, defensive, and clearly trying to prove he's the alpha. The other is calm, smiling, and completely unbothered by the chaos. Which one do you actually respect? The secret to magnetic charisma isn't about having the loudest voice, it's about having the most stable energy. Most advice tells you to pick a side, be the aggressive alpha or be the funny guy. But here's the catch, people aren't actually drawn to either one of them. Real charisma is a balance of what I call fire and ice. You want to bring the fire, the genuine smile, the good vibes, and the warmth that makes people feel comfortable around you. But you also need the ice, the unshakable core that stays grounded no matter what happens. When you can control your emotions, especially when someone tries to test you or things get awkward, you signal stability. You aren't that guy who laughs at every bad joke just to fit in, and you aren't the guy who gets angry over a small comment. This doesn't mean keeping a cold robotic face 24/7. In fact, being able to smile and show positive energy is a sign of power because it shows you aren't afraid of being seen. By staying friendly while remaining totally calm, you show that you own your emotional state. You aren't reacting to the room is reacting to you. Instead of being a nice guy who is desperate for approval, you become the man who is respected because he is the most stable person there. 6. The nothing to hide posture. Most guys walk into a room looking like they are trying to protect themselves. They cross their arms, they hunch their shoulders, and they take up as little space as possible. Without saying a word, they are screaming to the world that they are uncomfortable. If you've ever read a book about body language, the advice sounds simple. Pull your shoulders back, keep your chin up. But in reality, trying to remember 20 different moves while you're actually talking to someone is exhausting, and in the end, it makes you look stiff and robotic instead of magnetic. That's where the nothing to hide posture comes in. Instead of a checklist, all you have to remember is one core thought: I have nothing to hide. When you truly place that thought in your head, your body follows automatically. Even right now, as you're watching this, think to yourself, I have nothing to hide, and take a deep, slow breath. Notice how your shoulders naturally drop, your chest opens up, and your muscles start to relax. Suddenly, your posture is perfectly charismatic without you having to force a single position. When you take up space this way, you aren't being aggressive, you are being comfortable. It signals that you are at ease in your environment. You aren't scanning the exits or hiding behind your drink. You are fully present and unthreatened. This is the fastest way to change how people treat you before you even open your mouth. It moves you from looking like a background character into the person who owns the space. When your body language says you have nothing to hide, people naturally assume you have something worth knowing. But all of this falls apart if you fumble the ending of a conversation. You can be the most charismatic man in the room for 2 hours, but if the goodbye is awkward, that's the only taste you're leaving in their mouth. To avoid this, you need to take advantage of this next trick. 7. The clean exit. The biggest mistake most men make is staying in a conversation until it dies. They wait until there's an awkward silence or until the other person starts looking at their phone to finally walk away. If you wait until it's boring to leave, that boring energy is the only thing they'll remember about you. Charismatic men understand the power of leaving on a high note. You want to exit while the energy is at its peak, right after a big laugh or a great point has been made. When you make a clean exit, you do two things. 1. You leave them wanting more of your energy, which creates an immediate pull for the next time they see you. 2. You signal that your time is valuable and that you have a mission to get back to. So always end your conversations on a high note and never in awkward silence. And if you want to end the conversation even more charismatically, don't just walk away. Instead, drop a genuine compliment about why you enjoyed the conversation. Right as you're stepping out, say something like, "Damn, it's actually been fun talking to you. You've got a wild perspective on this. I've got to head out, but we definitely need to follow up on this soon." By doing this, you make them feel genuinely good about the conversation and about themselves. Deep down, everyone has a subconscious desire to be seen as interesting and a fear of being boring. When you leave someone feeling truly interesting and worth your time, you tap into the one thing everyone is secretly starving for: validation. You aren't just exiting a conversation, you're leaving them with an emotional high that they'll subconsciously crave every time they see you walk back into the room. Now you know what actually builds charisma. You have the tools to walk into any room and own the space, but you can do all 7 of these things perfectly and still fail because you're making silent mistakes that push people away. Building charisma is only half the battle. You have to make sure you aren't accidentally killing it. In this video, I break down the 8 charisma mistakes that destroy your hard-earned respect without you even realizing you're doing it. Click here to stop sabotaging yourself and hit that damn subscribe button so you don't miss next week's video. It's free.